into the third period. They take their first lead of the game. It's Philip Forsberg's 32nd goal of the year, making it a 4-3 contest.
So Forsberg from Yossi and Duchesne, 55 assists after that one for Roman Yossi. 1:11 into the third period, all of a sudden Nashville has the lead 4-3. But again, you can't have late game heroics without a deficit in the third period, and that's what the Flyers faced, and they wiped it out. 15:45 marks, so 4:15 rather left to go in the third period. Ristolainen throws one to the net. Kevin Hayes goes to the net, and it just bounces home. That's all you need. Doesn't matter how you – they don't ask how, they just ask how many. Fifth of the year for Kevin Hayes, tied the score. Hayes from Ristolainen, 15:45 of the third period. 4-4 at that point, and more heroics coming up, courtesy of Kevin Hayes, as he sets up the game winner. This one comes in the final 2 minutes of play, minute 19 left to go in the third period when the Flyers take the lead again. Kevin Hayes finding Joel Farabee on the left post for his 12th goal of the year and the eventual game winner. So Farabee with the game winner late in the third period off the feed from Kevin Hayes. Travis Sanheim gets the assist as well. 18:41 of the third, and it's a 5-4 win for the Flyers. And pretty much, I would say, Jason, apart from Claude having a hat trick, it's about the perfect ending you could ask for on a night like this.
Yeah, it was, wow, what a night, right? From the pregame ceremonies, and they were just spot on. The ceremony was spot on, and then the performance of the team. And Mike Yo talked about it a couple of days ago, saying make the night special for him in the way you play as well. And his teammates made him feel special earlier today. His fan base and organization and city saluted him tonight, and his teammates went out there and got the win along with him tonight. And what a performance by a couple of guys in particular. Kevin Hayes, that is the best game I've seen him play in a long time.
Yep.
On the PK, he looked like 1920 Kevin Hayes, protecting the puck, denying zone entries. And then the pass to Farabee is just simply beautiful. He's driving the net on the other goal, where Ristolainen just makes a great play getting up the ice. Ristolainen was good in the game. Bounce back performance from his game against Montreal. And Sanheim was all over the place again, including on that game winner. He had an amazing game tonight.
5 shots in the third period for the Flyers. They score on 2 of them. That is called overcoming a third period charge from the opponent right there, as they're outshot 15-5, 34-33 on the game, as it turns out, thanks to that 15-5 advantage in the third period. Carter Hart earns the win, 30 saves, 34 shots. He had that little bit of a stinger. We'll get into that a little bit more later on here in the postgame show.
I think that might have caught him in the grapes.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't tell if it just caught his thigh underneath the pad or if there was something more to that.
I think it came in more where you don't want it to come into as a fan.
Let's not just limit that to goaltenders.
Yeah.
UC Saros absorbs the loss, 28 saves on 33 shots on goal tonight. For the Philadelphia Flyers against the Nashville Predators goaltender, and they get the 5-4 victory. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll regroup here on the Flyers Game Day postgame show. We'll discuss what we saw after the final horn. A tribute to Claude Giroux from his teammates, from the fans. Just a great scene there after that final horn, and we'll talk this one through a little bit more as we continue here on the Flyers Game Day post-game show. Flyers win it 5-4. Back with more after this here on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
Woo! What's up, C? Good game. What's that?
5-4 is our final. The Flyers take it over the Nashville Predators tonight here at Wells Fargo Center. Flyers headed on the road. Second half of a back-to-back is tomorrow night in Ottawa. Flyers, the Ottawa Senators, and we will have that game for you here on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Flagship tomorrow will be 93.3 WMMR, and, of course, right here on the Flyers Radio 24/7. The Ottawa Senators have a roster full of people I've never heard of. There's a few names on there that you'll recognize, but not a lot. But
Yeah.
Such is the life right now in Ottawa. They are definitely in full rebuild mode, and Pierre Maguire is putting his stamp on that organization. It's a
a lot of people wish he wasn't.
well, a lot of people in Ottawa.
Yeah.
But the Flyers, of course, are trying to move north themselves, and a lot of that is going to have to do with what happens here in the next 4 days. The trade deadline is 3 p.m. on Monday, the 21st. Flyers are home, of course, on Sunday. So a 3-4 here for the Flyers. They've got really a 3 and 3.5 because Sunday's game starts at 2 o'clock. So it's going to be a tired bunch on Sunday. The very interesting thing is going to be, who gets traded before?
Who's here?
Yeah, because you're going to have to deal with, maybe a short roster. I don't know what the Phantom schedule is like this weekend, but they got to play games.
Probably play 3 days in a row.
Probably, yeah. So that's going to be one of the many variables going on this weekend. Obviously, the Flyers and Claude Giroux both wanted to get to tonight, and it was important, especially to him, that you get to this 1,000th game tonight. As of tomorrow morning, everybody wakes up. We'll see what happens.
He certainly looked like a guy that knew that this was it. Didn't he? At the end,
I mean, have you ever seen a farewell like that under different circumstances?
No.
Like it's almost to me like they know what's going to happen, and they just had to wait to get through the night.
It's almost like Wayne Simmons at the stadium series.
Yeah, you knew in your heart that was going to be his last game, and it was. And so
I think he's going to be off to Florida in the morning.
I mean, I had an opportunity to watch it from down here. I was curious what your guys' thoughts were upstairs. We were down here getting ready for postgame. I didn't have you guys in my ears, but I'm sure from upstairs it looked like a great ovation as well.
Yeah, it did. And for his teammates to stay on the ice, let him go down the hallway by himself, and then the curtain call to come back out
twice.
Yeah, and salute the fans once again, helmetless, tells you that they all know.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, that a deal is likely agreed to and culminated, and this is going to be the final game of Claude Giroux. And I guess the only question is where. I think Florida is the most likely destination. I believe that for a while, and the question is will he return as an unrestricted free agent?
Yeah, that is the big question. I agree with you on the Florida front. I just at this point, after what Florida's done in the last 24 hours, I just wonder what the return's going to be.
Yeah, because they traded their 2023 first-round pick, and they already didn't have a 2022. I think you're probably looking at, 2 prospects and a second or third round pick. That's what makes sense. They scouted Owen Tippett very aggressively.
Yep.
They also have some other players that would interest the Flyers. So we'll see if it's 2 prospects and a pick. The Flyers don't have a second round pick coming up in this draft because they traded that. So we'll see if what the return could be. Sam Iskevich is a guy that they took 24th overall last year, a right winger. He's a crafty young player. That could be part of something that they would be looking at. Looking at a Tippett, Sam Iskevich, and a second or a third. That would be a sizable return. Not everybody will like the return. Everybody wants New Hook from Colorado, and maybe Chuck goes back to Colorado and says, "Here's my final offer from them. If you want them, you got to give up New Hook."
Yeah.
Whether Colorado and Joe Sakic does that remains to be seen. Sakic's a very patient general manager, and really one of the players here tonight, Duchesne, that he had. He holds out long and doesn't make deals he doesn't want to make. So
right.
We'll see how that plays out. But whoever gets Claude Giroux, if in fact that does happen, which I think it will, is going to get a player that's looking to win and has a lot to contribute because he can still play.
Absolutely. And I think they're also going to get a Philadelphia fan base behind them. I think that whatever team ends up with him is going to be is going to get a secondary.
That's
fan
our
base,
team.
From Philadelphia. I mean, everybody is everybody is hoping that he gets a run at it. It is rare that you end up in a situation like Kimmo Timonen did, where he picked the right destination. And got to Chicago and got to lift the Stanley Cup.
Kimmo didn't have as much game left at that point, right?
No. And it was almost. I don't remember how many. He didn't play a ton of games in that final, but
I think he played one.
It was wisdom. It was
and depth.
Yeah, and depth. You're also talking about a player that I don't know. Had he played before the trade that year? I don't even remember.
He was dealing with that rare blood clot.
He was at the blood clot. He was out the whole season. And then was able to come back right around the deadline. I just can't remember if he played for the Flyers before or not, but at any rate, he'd been cleared, and he rolled the dice, and it came up deuces, and he ended up in the right spot.
Got his name on the cup.
So I really think that it's underrated what a player like Claude Giroux will bring to a potential Stanley Cup contender. I mean, if it's the Colorado Avalanche, I mean, how much do they already have? But to me, the most intriguing thing is not necessarily where he ends up and what the Flyers get back for him, but it's what's he got in mind for next year. Because if he comes, if he goes now and a Hall comes back and then the Flyers just get him back next year, I mean, that is the absolute best case scenario for this organization. But at this point in his career, there's other things to worry about. It's his family, and if he doesn't get that cup, does he want to go somewhere next year where he could get the cup? I don't know, but it's a lot of interesting variables at work.
Yeah, and the other part of it too, what he said after the game against Montreal, when he was asked, it was the final question of his availability, and at the end of his answer, I thought he had a really interesting thing to say. And here's what he said at the end of his answer when asked about making his decision. He said at the end, obviously there's still some meeting and some things to talk about with the management to see what the game plan is, not just for this year, but for the future.
Right.
So, I mean, clearly he's open-minded about it. We don't see players go back very often. A lot of that's circumstance, and because, if you're trading away, a player of his caliber, then you're probably doing it because you need to rebuild, and it's not a destination to go back to a lot of times. Keith Tkachuk went back to St. Louis. Happens rarely. I think Matt Molson did it as well. Not a lot of players do it, but, he clearly doesn't want to leave.
Right. Yeah.
But that cup has got a magnetic, attraction to it. And if you got a chance to go get it, you go get it.
Absolutely.
And this may be the chance for him to do it.
I know it's a pipe dream, but imagine if Chuck Fletcher can somehow pry Anton Lindell from Florida. That's Tony Androkidis. He covers the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. He was here tonight. If you are Florida and you've done what you've done so far and you don't have a ton of assets to give up anymore, I don't know if you pull a guy like that from your current roster or not, but, that might be what we're talking about with a team like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a little bit more unlikely considering the amount of scouting they did on Owen Tippett.
Yeah.
And you don't like to take something away.
Yes, absolutely.
You'd love to just make it an ad, but that's easier said than done.
Right.
And I imagine the Flyers will be retaining some salary, which is probably the second or third round pick part of the equation.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how he assimilates in Florida. I mean, it's a great team, but they're also a team that hasn't gotten out of the first round of the playoffs yet. So they're really good right now. Huberdeau's a Hart candidate. Barkov is the reigning Selke winner, and they got goaltending with Bobrovsky's had a good year, and Ekblad is going to be in that Norris conversation and has had a tremendous season. They check all the boxes, but it's also hard to win in the NHL playoffs. I mean, look what they're going to have to get by. You're going to have to get by a team like Carolina, which is going to be a handful. Tampa, Toronto, perhaps.
Yep.
And then
when you're all said and done, you probably get to deal with Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, it's the crazy thing about the NHL playoffs, and I know Darryl Sutter from the Calgary Flames head coach has talked about it. The wild card team that's going to face Colorado, it's going to be the quickest 8 days and wasted time is what he called it. But we've seen 8 seeds beat 1 seeds. We just saw it a couple of years ago when Columbus swept a Tampa Bay Lightning team that in the regular season had 128 points.
Yep.
So nothing's impossible in the NHL playoffs. Nothing.
And Tampa Bay learned that the hard way right before they won their 2 cups. But
consider it lesson learned, by the way.
Exactly. Absolutely. We're going to take one more break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this edition of the Flyers Game Day post-game show. We'll preview tomorrow night's game in Ottawa and what else is ahead for the Flyers here this weekend and into next week post-trade deadline. That's all just ahead as we wrap things up here. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Flyers win it 5-4 over the Nashville Predators. Back after this here on BetRivers.com. Flyers Broadcast Network. And, Flyers, again, have an opportunity to go up there and string together a couple of wins, which has been elusive for them to do as a
Yeah, I mean, you got an opportunity in the back-to-back to get that done. You're not going to get in tonight to the hotel probably at around 2:30 a.m. after clearing customs and everything. And it's been an emotional day for not just Claude, but everybody. I think that, there's been a lot of build-up to this moment, and there's a lot of build-up to what's going to happen on Monday. And that's not just Claude. That's Justin Braun. That's Martin Jones. That's other guys on this team, too, that are unrestricted. Derek Brassard. So, that emotional part can weigh on you a little bit. They can all exhale now that part's in the rear view, but you still have the deadline sitting there.
Right.
So once the dust settles after that, then I think everybody can settle in again. But it's been such an odd year, not only from just the performance and the injuries and everything else, but coupled with this circumstance as well. It's something that's that does weigh on players, no doubt about it.
So you go to Ottawa tomorrow. They come home for the Islanders 2:00 on Sunday. That's a national broadcast, by the way, on TNT. And we'll have the radio broadcast for you here on the 97.5 The Fanatic and the Flyers Broadcast Network. Then they go on the road. And a bit of an intriguing road trip here, especially if Claude Giroux ends up in Colorado, because the third game on this 5-game trip is against the Colorado Avalanche out in Denver. But Detroit, St. Louis, Colorado, Nashville, and Minnesota, it's a trip they will embark on with likely a very revamped roster. And, that's going to be an interesting trip just from the standpoint of, again, once they get past this deadline, it's all about establishing a baseline for next year, trying to see what they got, what they need to go out and get. And this will be their first extended road trip since the holidays. So we'll see what happens there. But it is a very interesting time to have a 5-game roadie right after that trade deadline.
Yeah, and that may be just what they need, too.
Yeah, could be.
The group will be settled at that point. Here's what we have. Here's what we know is going to be here. And they can settle in a little bit. So that won't be – I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good spot for them to be in. There is such a thing as being home too much.
Oh, yeah.
8-game homestand is kind of up there. And they had the 8-gamer, gone for 2, then back for 2 more. So they've played 10 of their last 12 at home. And by the time they go on that trip, it's going to be 13 of 16 at home. So, it'll be good for them to get away and get some time going and all that. But we'll see how it starts. But 2 more games here before the deadline. We will see who is in Ottawa when they get there tomorrow, and we'll see what happens after that. Congratulations on a good pinch hit tonight.
Thank you very much.
I'll let you go home and stop talking for a while.
Yeah, no, I got to go home and do the podcast.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, you have a half hour to drive home and not talk to you.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap it up for us here tonight at Wells Fargo Center, the Flyers Game Day postgame show. Lots of folks to thank. Our engineers down here in East Food Hall. Betsy Deming is our engineer upstairs. Tyler Zulli is going against Mike Missinelli in the Crossing Broad bracket of 16. He is the 16 seed. Missinelli is the 1, and we need that upset. So go to crossingbroad.com. Check this out. It's the bracket of the Phillies top talk show, sports talk host or whatever.
I'm not even on it anymore. That's a good thing.
And vote for Tyler Zulli. We need this upset here. He was our engineer back at the station and doing a great job at it, of course, as always. And Thomas Albert was on our highlights tonight, pulling all the great action here from this one at Wells Fargo Center, which the Flyers win 5-4 is your final. For Tim Saunders, Jason Martinez, Steve Coates, wherever he is, I'm Brian Smith saying so long once again. Glad to have you along with us here tonight for Claude Giroux's 1,000th career game, and the crew will talk to you tomorrow from Ottawa. Flyers the Ottawa Senators tomorrow night right here along the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Flagship tomorrow night will be 93.3 WMMR. It is a 7 o'clock start time in Canada's capital. We'll talk to you then. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, Ty.
What?